Hello everyone, welcome back all of you. In today's session we are going to have discussion on flow measurement, and in that we will first begin with basics, and then we'll try to discuss few terminologies involved, and building up our basics we'll proceed further with the all the types of flow meters. And in the flow measurement the fluid can be of any type, like it can be liquid or it can be gas, and the flow can be of two types: open channel flow and closed channel flow. So we mainly discuss closed channel flow, and in that we have few terms as average flow or mean flow rate is given as velocity meter per second. How much distance per unit time the fluid is going to travel is given as mean flow rate, and how much amount of mass is going to be traveled in per unit time, that is given as mass flow rate. And in the case of volume per unit time, it is going to be given as volumetric flow rate. So also it has another name as amount of discharge q, which is given as cross sectional area into velocity. So moving further, we have one pipe which is going to have two ends. One end is at pressure 1 and another end is at pressure 2, and if the pressure 1 and 2 are not exactly at same value, so we have some pressure difference, and I am assuming that P1 is greater than P2. So the flow is going to take place from higher pressure to lower pressure. So due to the pressure difference at a particular point P1, the point where pressure is P1, the area is taken as A1 and assumed the velocity as V1. And the point where the pressure is P2, I have taken the area as A2 and the velocity is V2. So the area is getting changed, so the velocity also is going to be changed. So in the ideal case, it is by using law of continuity, it is required that the volume of flow rate at Q1 should be equal to Q2. So the amount of volume which is going to enter inside the pipe should be equal to the amount of volume which is going to leave the pipe at point where the pressure is P2. So it is given as A1 V1 is equal to A2 V2, because we know amount of discharge Q is given as area into velocity. So at point P1 the area is A1, which is greater than A2, so the velocity is going to be the lesser one, because the product of them is going to be same. So if the area is decreasing, the velocity will increase. But in the case of practical, it is not possible that the volume which is going to enter into the pipe is going to be equal to the volume which is leaving outside the pipe, because we are going to have so many losses like frictional losses and pressure losses and many other things. So due to that, practically we are going to have practical flow rate which is going to be lesser than the theoretical flow rate. So if the value of CD, which is going to be known as coefficient of discharge, if it is 1, so the theoretical value of volume flow rate is going to be same as practical value of theoretical value of flow rate will be equal to the practical value of flow rate. But in the case of practical thing, the coefficient of discharge is going to be 0 between 0 to 1, so we are going to face some losses. So due to that, the practical value of flow rate is uh, in the case of practical thing, the value of flow rate is not going to be equal. So the value of CD is going to decide the efficiency of flow meter. So if we have the CD value as higher one, we are going to have less number of losses, whereas if we have less value of coefficient of discharge, it means that we are losing compared to the one which has higher CD value. So the CD is given as Q practical divided by Q theoretical. So practically we are measuring the volume coming out as point P2 is given as A2 V2, whereas in the case of ideally the volume should have come out as A1 V1, because whatever we have entered, that must have came out, but actually coming out is A2 V2, whereas the given quantity is A1 V1. So we have taken the ratio as A2 V2 divided by A1 V1. So A2 by A1 is going to be the coefficient of contraction, whereas V2 by V1 is going to be the coefficient of velocity. So these are a few basic terminologies, and now we'll try to add on few more, and then we'll discuss Bernoulli's equation. So adding on few more terminologies in the flow measurement, we have conduit, laminar, turbulent, Reynolds number, and then we'll have a look of Bernoulli's energy equation. So what does it mean by conduit? It is nothing but shape of velocity profile. And to make you understand, I have taken the example of venturi meter, so which is going to be fitted in the pipeline at these 2 points. So at point number 1, the fluid is going to be inside the pipeline. So this point number 1 be inlet, and this point number 5 will be outlet. So at point number 1, the fluid will flow inside the flow meter, and at point number 2, the fluid is going to get converged, so it will be named as a converging zone. Whereas at point number 3, it is going to be throat, and the velocity for some duration is going to be the constant one. And once the fluid is coming out of the throat, it is going to get diverged back to its uh, initial velocity, so it will be named as diverging zone. And then finally, with the help of outlet, it will go in the pipeline bag. So from the back, from the outside, this geometry is going to look like as identical as pipeline, but from inside there are going to be geometrical changes. So based on that, the shape of velocity profile inside the pipeline is going to change. How it is going to change? And before I do that, let me tell you what is laminar flow. Laminar flow is nothing but disciplined profile of velocity. And now I am taking the disciplined profile as parabolic profile. So at the inlet, the area is capital A, whereas in the case of throat, I am taking the area is small a. So the profile will be same only, but the magnitude of velocity will increase. So the shape of profile at bigger area is going to be the bigger one, whereas in the smaller area, the shape of profile will be the smaller one, but the magnitude will increase because the velocity is going to increase. So that is going to be the conduit. And laminar has the disciplined velocity profile, whereas in the case of turbulent, we have the disturbed profile of velocity. We cannot actually predict what is going to be the profile, so we are going to have random velocity profile. And Reynolds number is the characteristic function of the fluid, which is going to tell us whether the fluid is laminar or turbulent. So it is going to be the characteristic function of fluid. So it is given as n Reynolds equal to rho v d by mu. So rho is the density, v is the average velocity, d is the diameter of the pipe, and mu is the coefficient of viscosity. And if the Reynolds number is less than 1000, we have the flow as laminar. And if Reynolds number is between 2000 to 4000, it is going to be in transition state. So laminar flow is getting converted into turbulent flow. Whereas if the value of Reynolds number is greater than 4500, we are going to have turbulent flow. And if the Reynolds number is very high, like 10 to the power 5, so which is used in the turbines, because to rotate the bigger machines we have to make the fluid as very turbulent, then only we will be able to rotate the turbine. So this is going to be highly turbulent. And now we'll have a look of Bernoulli's energy equation. So the Bernoulli's principle states that for an incompressible fluid in a closed channel, the summation of all the energies is going to be constant. So always keep in mind, whenever Bernoulli's principle is taking place, and or we are making use of Bernoulli's principle, we have to consider the fluid as incompressible one. So we are not going to consider any losses, and we'll consider it as ideal one. So because of that, we are going to make use of law of continuity, which I said a1 v1 is equal to a2 v2, or m1 dot is equal to m2 dot. So the amount of mass per unit time entering inside the pipeline is going to be amount of mass leaving the pipeline. So at point 1, the height of the pipeline is z1, and at the point 2, I have taken the height as z2, and area is a1, pressure p1, and mass is m1, and area is a2, pressure is p2, and the mass is m2. And now we will try to write the summation of all the energies. So all the energies are potential energy, kinetic energy, and pressure energy, and sum of them is going to be the constant one. So we'll try to write all the energies at point 1 and we'll equate them at point 2. So the potential energy at point 1, m1 z z1 plus half m1 v1 square, the kinetic energy will be half m1 v1 square, and the pressure energy will be pressure into volume 1 is equal to m2 z z2 square. The potential energy at point number 2 is mzz plus half m2 v2 square, and the pressure energy at point 2 will be p2 v2, and we know that density is equal to mass by volume. So volume will write as mass by density. So these two places will keep it as m1 by rho 1. So m1 by rho 1, and v2 will write as mass 2 divided by rho 2. So that's what the main reason behind taking the incompressible fluid. The rho 1 is equal to, the meaning of incompressible fluid is rho 1 is equal to rho 2. The density is not going to change. So m1 by rho and m2 by rho will be. And now if we divide the whole equation with respect to time, so m1 by t, here also divide by t, here also divide by t. So mass per unit time will come as m1 dot mgz1 plus half m1 dot v1 square plus p1 m1 dot, m1 by t is m1 dot divided by rho, is equal to m2 dot z z2 plus half m2 dot v2 square plus p2 m2 dot divided by rho. So using the equation of law of continuity, we are going to cancel m1 and m2 because m1 dot is equal to m2 dot. We cannot cancel m1 and m2 because mass are not same, mass flow rate is same. The amount of mass per unit time entering inside the pipeline at point A has to be same at point B. So m1 dot and m2 dot are going to be cancelled. So it will become as gz1 plus half v1 square plus p1 by rho is equal to gz2 plus half v2 square plus p2 by rho, and if we divide by z, it will become as or if we multiply by rho, so this will write p1 plus half rho v1 square plus rho g z1. This term I have written here. So rho g z1 is equal to p2 plus half rho v2 square plus rho g z2. So this is going to be the Bernoulli's equation. So which is coming out as pressure plus half rho velocity at point 1 whole square, or half rho v square plus rho z z is going to be constant. So that's what the equation of Bernoulli is. Pressure plus half rho v square plus rho z z is constant. So now we'll make a list of all the flow meters which we are going to discuss, and then we'll call it the session for this particular day. So here is the list of flow meters which we are going to discuss in our upcoming sessions, and we are going to discuss mainly two type of flow meters, one of which is mechanical one and other category is going to be the electrical flow meters. And the mechanical flow meters will discuss mainly 5 types: venturi meter, orifice meter, nozzle flow meter, rotometer and pitot tube. And all these mechanical flow meters are going to be based on Bernoulli's energy equation principle, and whereas in the case of electrical we will have 4 flow meters: ultrasonic flow meter, electromagnetic flow meter, variable reluctance flow meter which is turbine flow meter, and at the end we will have hot wire anemometer. So ultrasonic will work on principle of reverse piezo. We already had a look of piezoelectric effect. Now we will discuss the reverse piezoelectric effect here. And in the case of electromagnetic flow meter, we are going to know about the Lorentz law. Turbine flow meter, already I had the basic discussion in the case of inductive flow meters, so which is going to work on variable reluctance principle. So we'll try to do the derivation here. And in the case of hot wire anemometer, it is going to work on the King's law of heat transfer. So instead of making a complete session, I'll try to make one session on mechanical flow meter and then one session on electrical flow meter, so that you can understand both the concepts in a gradual process. So that's all for today. If you have any doubt, you can ask in the comment section. Thank you.